There are 11 Japanese rules that Americans break after the age of 40, and they are the reason for what people call the old person smell. And most people have never even heard of them. The problem with this smell is that it does not come from your armpits, and it does not come from your breath, so no amount of deodorant or mouthwash will ever touch it. It comes from a specific place on your body that you have never once thought to wash, and you cannot even smell it on yourself. That is why the people around you have been smelling it for years while you have had no idea. The first rule we will go through is the reason you have been spraying, scrubbing, and showering in completely the wrong way. And the last one is the reason nobody in your life has ever told you about any of this. By the end of the video, you will know exactly how to fix it. The first mistake most people make is treating body odor like it is one single thing. The Japanese figured out a long time ago that it is not, and that the smell your body produces actually shifts as you get older, until by the time you hit your 40s, it is coming from a place it never came from before. They have 3 separate words for it in Japan, because each one belongs to a different decade of your life. In your teens and 20s, the smell comes mostly from your armpits and your feet. In your 30s, a second smell begins to come off the skin of your head. And from your 40s onward, a third smell arrives on the back of your neck, on your chest, and on your upper back. That third smell is what the entire rest of this video is about. It has a name in Japan, it has a chemical behind it, and by the end of this video, you will know exactly where on your body it is coming from and how to get rid of it. A Japanese cosmetics company called Shiseido actually identified the exact chemical behind that third smell back in 1999. It is called 2-non-enol, and it is a substance your body genuinely starts making more of as you get older. Your skin was not producing any real amount of it in your 20s, and it is making plenty of it by your late 40s. So the reason you noticed yourself smelling different in the mirror one morning around 45 is not because you got lazy in the shower. Your body started making something new, and nobody was around to tell you about it. So when you notice yourself smelling different at 45 and go out to buy stronger antiperspirant, or you start scrubbing harder under your arms in the shower, nothing about the smell actually moves. It was never coming from your armpits to begin with. You have spent your entire adult life treating 1 square inch of your body for a smell that has been coming out of 3 completely different places, and none of the products on your bathroom shelf were ever designed to touch any of them. So for the next 10 rules, forget about your armpits entirely, because the parts of your body this video is actually about are somewhere else completely. And the first of those parts is one you have almost certainly never touched with soap on purpose in your entire life. The second thing Americans get wrong about this smell is where on the body it is actually coming from. When Shiseido did their original research on 2-non-enol, they traced it to 4 very specific patches of skin, and those 4 patches are the back of your neck, behind your ears, your upper back, and your chest. If you take a second to picture those 4 spots on your own body, you will notice something strange about them. Those are the exact 4 places that your own nose cannot physically reach. You cannot lift your arm, or bend your head, or twist in the mirror far enough to smell any of them, which means there is no way for you to check yourself for this at home. The reason it is those 4 places specifically comes down to the oil on your skin. Your body produces more of it on those patches than anywhere else on your body, and by the time you hit your 40s, there is enough of it sitting on that skin all day long to keep the smell going nonstop. Your skin in your 20s never had enough of the raw material for this to happen, which is why the smell only arrives in the decade it arrives. You should actually pause the video for a moment, run a finger hard behind your ear, and then bring the finger up to your nose and smell it. I will wait. Whatever you noticed just then, and whether it was faint or strong or nothing at all, that is what the people around you have been smelling for years, and it is coming from a patch of skin you have never once thought to wash on purpose. The people standing next to you have been picking this up on you for a long time without you ever having a way to know it was there. So for the next few weeks, make it a habit to wash those 4 places deliberately, with proper friction and not just water running over them. The back of the neck, behind both ears, the upper back, and the whole of the chest, every single day. But even if you do all of that, you might still not fix the smell, because there is a very specific reason your usual soap has never actually touched it. The third Japanese rule Americans break is about what you are actually washing with in the first place. In any Japanese drugstore, there is an entire aisle for a product called Kaki Shibu, which is persimmon tannin soap, and it sits right next to a second category of body wash built around silver ions. Both of those product lines are marketed specifically for Kurishu. They are on the shelf at eye level, and they have been standard for decades. If you walk into an American drugstore and look for the equivalent aisle, you will not find a smaller version of it. You will not find it at all. The reason those two Japanese products exist as a whole retail category is that two non-enol sticks to your skin in a way regular soap simply cannot wash off. It bonds to the protein on the surface of your skin and stays there, no matter how many showers you take with an ordinary bar. The persimmon tannin actually breaks the chemical down on contact, and the silver ions kill off the bacteria that produce it in the first place. Both approaches work, and neither of them looks anything like the bar of soap sitting in your shower right now. The frustrating part of all this is that you have been washing correctly for years, with a product that was never designed to remove the compound in question, in a country that has never sold you one that does. You have blamed your body for something that a bar of Dove was never going to fix, no matter how many times a day you used it or how hard you scrubbed with it. So order a persimmon tannin soap or a silver ion body wash online, use it on the 4 places from the last rule, and give it about 30 seconds of contact time on your skin before you rinse it off. It costs a few dollars, it lasts weeks, and it actually does the job that your regular bar of soap has never even been designed for. And there are hundreds more habits like these that Japanese families have used for generations to keep their homes fresh and clean. I have pulled all of them together into a book, and it is over at thejapanesemethod.com. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to get your copy and start transforming your daily routine today. Now, the next rule is about the piece of fabric you sleep on every single night, and it has been putting this smell right back onto your skin the whole time you have been trying to wash it off. The 4th Japanese rule Americans break is about the fabric that spends the most time touching your skin, and it is probably the single most important rule in this video if you have been showering carefully, but the smell still comes back on you by the end of the day. When a Japanese company called Mandem went to measure this smell in the real world, they did something you would not expect. They actually collected pillowcases from people's beds after a week of normal use and had a trained panel smell them directly. Because as it turned out, the pillowcase you sleep on every night holds this smell more reliably than the skin that produced it in the first place. The reservoir for this smell is the fabric sitting 2 millimeters away from you all day and all night. It is the pillowcase, the collar of every shirt, the lining of the jacket you have worn every winter, the headrest of the seat in your car, and the back of the sofa cushion you sit against every evening. All of them absorb the compound directly out of your skin, and every one of them reapplies it to the same skin you just washed the next time your neck touches it. There is almost certainly a jacket in your closet that you have owned for years and never once put in the wash. That jacket has been sitting against the back of your neck twice a day, every winter, for the entire time this problem has been happening in your life. You have been drying a clean neck with a dirty coat and calling it a problem with your body. So change the pillowcase every 2 or 3 days instead of once a week, wipe down the collars of your coats and the headrest of your car with a damp cloth every week, and treat every shirt collar with a stain remover before it goes into the wash. That takes care of one of the 2 compounds behind all of this, because there is a completely different chemical coming out of a completely different part of your body, and it is the one that actually reaches people when they lean in to say hello. The 5th Japanese rule Americans break is about the smell people actually notice on you when they hug you, and this one is not too non-enol at all. In 2013, the researchers at Mandem identified a completely separate compound behind the heavy, oily, middle-aged smell that people start noticing on men in their 30s and 40s, and that compound is called diacetyl. It is produced when the skin bacteria on your head take the lactic acid in your sweat and convert it through 2 chemical steps into a molecule whose odor is roughly 120 times stronger than vinegar. When Mandem's team surveyed Japanese consumers about where they noticed the change in men as they aged, the answer came back overwhelmingly and unmistakably as the head, and the strongest signal came from women who were standing close to those men in conversation. That result is what shifted the focus of the entire product category away from the body and up onto the scalp and the region around it. The smell that people notice on you when they lean in for a hug is not coming from your body at all. It is coming from your scalp, and it has been the loudest part of your presence in every close conversation you have had for the last few years without you ever knowing. Which means the whole time you have been keeping your body clean and putting on a fresh shirt every morning, You have been forgetting that the top of your head is also a surface that gets sweaty and oily and covered in bacteria. Your body has been the one thing about you that was actually clean, and the loudest signal in the room has been sitting right up on top of it. The top of your head is the place to clean, and there is a specific technique for doing that properly which almost no American has ever been taught. The 6th Japanese rule Americans break is about how you actually wash your head in the shower. In a Japanese bathroom, the scalp itself is treated as a distinct step from the hair, and it gets 90 seconds of massage with the fingertips, working the crown and the nape of the neck last so that the runoff has time to lift the oil out of the skin. In an American shower, we shampoo the hair, which is the visible bit at the front and the top, in about 20 seconds of hurried scrubbing before rinsing everything out and moving on with the day. Your scalp carries one of the highest concentrations of oil glands anywhere on your body, and it spends the whole day and night sealed under a layer of hair that traps heat and moisture against the skin. Diacetyl comes from bacteria feeding on that oil, and those bacteria live on the skin of the scalp itself, not on the hair fibers. Hair is not skin, and washing the hair does almost nothing to reach the actual source of the problem. Dry shampoo is one of the worst offenders in all of this, because it is basically starch laid down on top of sebum, and it covers the smell without doing anything to remove it. Using dry shampoo 4 days in a row is essentially the entire message of this video compressed into one grooming habit. So use your fingertips rather than your fingernails, spend a full 90 seconds working the skin of the scalp itself, and finish with the crown and the nape of the neck deliberately. Wash your hair at night and let the scalp dry fully before you get into bed, because a damp scalp on a pillow is exactly the two conditions the bacteria need combined into one place. The 7th Japanese rule Americans break is about the fragrance you have been spraying on top of the smell in an attempt to hide it. The Japanese response to a body odor is almost always to remove the source, and the American response is almost always to put a second, stronger smell on top of the first one. Japan even has a specific word for the harm caused by overdoing this, which is kogai, or fragrance harm, and it is discussed openly as a workplace issue in professional settings. The specific problem with using cologne to mask Karishu is that most masculine fragrances sit in what perfumers call the woody and powdery families, and those two families happen to occupy the same olfactory register as 2-nonenal itself. Instead of covering the underlying compound, they amplify it and make it red stronger to the people around you. The only fragrance family that genuinely competes with 2-nonenal is the citrus family, which means lemon, lime, orange, and grapefruit. Whatever you spray on top of the compound does not replace it. It combines with it, and the combination is the thing that people actually remember about you when you walk out of the room. The cologne you bought to fix this problem has, for years now, been signing the compound's name for you and making it louder in every conversation. So if you are going to use a fragrance at all, keep it in the citrus family and keep it light. But honestly, the next 3 rules are about not needing to use one at all, because you cannot spray anything off that your own body is still manufacturing tonight from what you ate today. The 8th Japanese rule Americans break is about the food that becomes this compound inside your body in the first place. The Japanese baseline diet is significantly lower in animal fat than the American one, much higher in fermented soy from natto and miso and tofu, and it uses green tea catechins as an active deodorizing agent to the point where you can buy socks and shirts treated with catechin in any Japanese department store as a real retail category. The American baseline diet is higher in animal fat, lower in fermented food, and the tea aisle in the supermarket is mostly sweetened iced tea in bottles. 2-nonenal is an oxidation product, and that word matters more than it sounds like it should. The fatty acid on your skin has to be oxidized by lipid peroxides in order for the compound to exist at all, and lipid peroxides in your body are directly influenced by your antioxidant intake and your overall inflammation load. That makes the diet upstream of the chemistry rather than something separate from it. You cannot wash off a compound that your body is still manufacturing tonight from what you had for dinner. You have been treating the exhaust while feeding the engine, and no amount of soap or scrubbing is going to close that gap on its own. So drink green tea every day instead of another cup of coffee, eat more antioxidant-rich foods like berries and leafy greens, cut back on the fried food and the heavy animal fat, and drink a lot more water than you currently do. The 9th Japanese rule Americans break is about how often your body actually sweats. In Japan, walking is embedded into the daily routine by the sheer design of the cities and the transit system, and the average Japanese adult puts down significantly more steps per day than the average American adult without ever thinking about it as exercise. In America, movement tends to happen in short, intense bursts at the gym, followed by long stretches of sitting, still with the air conditioning on. Diacetyl, the compound from Rule 5, is built from lactic acid in your sweat, and this is where the science produces a genuinely counterintuitive result. Hard, breathless, anaerobic exercise raises the lactic acid concentration in your sweat, which means the sweat you produce after a punishing workout is chemically loaded with the raw material for the smell. Steady, low-intensity aerobic movement, like walking, actually lowers the lactic acid concentration over time. And there is a second half to this rule, which is that people who rarely sweat produce sweat that is significantly more concentrated when it finally does come out, because the compounds have had all week to build up in the system. The neighbor of yours who walks 4 miles a day and the neighbor who never leaves the recliner, if I asked you to guess which one smells worse, you would almost certainly guess wrong, and you have been guessing wrong about this your whole life. So walk every day at a steady pace, sweat lightly and often instead of never and then heavily, and let the routine of movement do the chemical work of keeping the smell down. The 10th Japanese rule Americans break is about the place this compound has been building up for years that you have never once thought to clean. In a Japanese home, the futon is aired outside in direct sunlight on a regular schedule. The rooms are ventilated deliberately every day, even in winter, and soft furnishings are treated as absorbent surfaces that need active maintenance. In an American home, the sofa is bought once and never touched again. The curtains get washed, maybe once a decade if that, and the mattress gets flipped about as often as the elections. 2 non-enal transfers directly into fabric and stays there indefinitely. The sofa cushions absorb it every night you sit against them watching television. The curtains hold it, the carpet holds it, the mattress holds it, the car seat you drive in every day holds it, and the coat in the hall closet that you never wash has been holding it for years. The truly unfortunate part of this is that once the compound is soaked into the fabric of a room, the person actually living in that room stops being able to detect it entirely, while every visitor to the room detects it inside about 4 seconds of the front door opening. You could shower for a full hour with the persimmon soap and walk back into the room and pick the smell right back up onto your clothes and your hair and your skin. The problem stopped being your body some years ago, and there was nobody around to tell you that either. So wash or steam every soft surface that can be washed. Open the windows and air out the room every single day, even for 10 minutes in winter. Put whatever you can out in the sun for a few hours, and replace the pillow you have owned for the last 3 years. 10 rules in, the accusation has stacked pretty high, and before we get to the last one, there is something you deserve to know about the entire system you are being compared to. Japan identified the compound behind Kurishu in 1999, published the mechanism in the year 2000, and had the first products for it on the shelves shortly after that. It named the smell, named the harassment around it, built the soap for it, put the diagnostic term into everyday conversation, and produced a whole retail category around the answer. America produced a single punchline about nursing homes and then went quiet on the whole subject for the next 25 years. You were not careless and you were not unclean. You have been fighting a specific, named, measurable chemical reaction with no name for it in your language, no product for it on your shelf, and no one around you willing to bring it up. You were not given worse habits than the Japanese. You were given silence. The 11th Japanese rule Americans break is about the conversation that has never happened in your own house. Japan has a workplace term for this called sumihara, which translates roughly as smell harassment, and it is used openly in human resources language for odor in shared professional space. It is a normal thing for a manager to be able to say to an employee in a private meeting. English has no way to say it. That is not immediately cruel. And that gap in the language has real consequences in your life. Because the vocabulary does not exist without an insult attached to it, everyone around you has done the same private calculation. They have worked out that telling you would hurt you more than not telling you, and then they have carried the information for you instead of handing it over. It was never a stranger who noticed. It was somebody who loves you. It was your partner, or your daughter, or your best friend of 30 years, and they have been managing the physical distance between you and them for a long time without ever mentioning why. The people closest to you in the world are the least likely to say anything about this, and they are also the ones who know it best. They have been protecting you from the information for years now, and that protection has cost them something every single time they made the choice to keep quiet about it again. And there is one more finding from the Japanese research that I am not going to number, because it works one level above every rule you have just heard, and it changes what you thought was true about who in the room can actually smell what. When Mandam's team measured how sensitive different people are to different body odor compounds, they found that sensitivity varies enormously from one compound to another. For sweat odor and foot odor, women detect them at much lower concentrations than men, and women in their 20s are significantly more sensitive than men in their 40s. For diacetyl, the head compound, the population splits down the middle, with some people noticing it immediately and others barely registering it at all. 2-non-enol, the compound behind Kurishu, does neither of those things. Its detection threshold is remarkably low, and it is almost perfectly consistent across both sexes and every single age group they measured, which means there is no one in the room around you who cannot smell it. There is no sympathetic exception, no younger person whose nose has not developed the ability yet, no older person whose nose has lost the ability, no man whose sense of smell happens to be duller than a woman's. Everybody standing near you is picking it up at the same threshold as everybody else. With every other smell your body makes, somebody in the room is getting away with not noticing. With this specific compound, everybody in the room is at the same threshold, and the only person in the entire room who cannot smell it is you. Americans grew up assuming the smell of getting older is a fixed condition of biology that you can do nothing about except cover it up. It is not. It is an oil that oxidizes into a specific chemical on 4 patches of skin that nobody ever told you to wash, and it soaks into the fabric of a room that nobody ever told you to air out. Every single part of that is fixable, and every single part of it is fixable starting tonight. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Check out my previous video appearing on your screen, and I will see you in my next video.